I'm Park Howell, and welcome to the Business of Story, home to the one and only story cycle system. Do you want people to actually give a crap about you and your purpose-driven company? Then our proven system will help you tell them a better friggin' story. And that's the secret sauce, folks. You gotta have a better, clear story. You can get started right now by downloading your 64-page DIY brand story strategy workbook at businessofstory.com. It's filled with examples, links to tutorial videos, and will help you clarify your story to grow your revenue and amplify your impact. And if you're really proud of how your brand story comes together, let me know. We might put you on our show to share your new narrative with the world. So download your story cycle guide right now as you listen to today's show.
I thought it was just a stupid picture of a pig in the ocean. But after hearing that story, I had to have it. Now I wasn't just buying a picture. I was buying a story. Story literally made the picture worth more money to me.
That's what businesses are about. People buy brands. People buy stories much more than anything else.
I work with a lot of big enterprise companies, but let's just say I always tell folks, drop the PowerPoint, close your laptops, start with your story.
If you want people to get engaged and you want people to act, you have to tell them an emotionally powerful story. That's with great characters, it's with uncertain outcomes, and it's with high stakes and drama.
All business strategy is a story.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to another edition of the Business of Story. I've got my friend here in Phoenix, George Grombacher, on today's show. Say hello to everyone, George.
Thanks for having me, Park.
Great to have you here. And what we're going to do is, like we've done on a few shows in the past, is George has taken the DIY workbook. He's taken it on his own to go and work through his brand story to help him really identify and clarify what his personal and professional brand is so that he can ultimately grow revenue, amplify his impact, and ultimately simplify his life. Because when it comes together and you get super focused on what your brand story truly, authentically is, where you are living into your best non-fictional self, everything about life gets easier and more productive. And George, I hope you found that already in this process.
I have, and all those things you just described sound really good, so excited to get into this.
Yeah, so what I've done is I've asked George, who apparently is a doctor writing prescriptions in another life, because he was the first one that actually didn't type his out. He hand wrote his out. And like I told you, George, I can make out about 1/3 of what you've got chicken scratch here, which is great because I think it might even underscore the power of this process even more. So I haven't really had a chance to prep that much other than I know you and I know a little bit about what you're up to, but I know you're up to really big things. And so I'm equally as interested to find out as we clarify your story today. So let's jump right in. My first question for you. And by the way, folks out there, if you have downloaded your own DIY workbook, pull it out and work along. We're not going to cover every single chapter because we don't have enough time today, but we're going to cover the high points in this. And if you don't have a DIY workbook, you can download one after the show, but just get a notepad and paper out and take copious notes, because what George is going to go through today, you can do for your own brand story. Really help you clarify it. So, all right, George, first and foremost, you went through the book. How did it work for you? What do you think? Has it helped you bring a little bit of clarity to what you're about?
Very much. I've discovered that anytime I sit down and write anything, it helps me to better learn things. So I started blogging again, I think 3-4 years ago, and it's definitely helped me. And taking the time, because it is a bit of a time commitment to go through the DIY workbook, was definitely of value. So no question.
So good. So we need to set context around your story. On page 9 of the workbook, it talks about your backstory, where you've been, where are you now, where you're going. In 2 minutes or less, can you let our listeners know who you are and what you're about and what you'd like to accomplish here?
Yeah, so I happened into sales, as I think that probably a lot of people did, and it happened to be in financial services. So I've now been financial advisor for 17 years. Grew up in Minnesota. I've been practicing financial services in Arizona for these 17 years. And I've done a little bit of everything. I sold insurance for a while. I've been a financial planner, done asset management. I was in leadership with big companies like New York Life and Mass Mutual. And I picked my head up after 14 years and I thought, well, where do I really fit in? And I settled on retirement planning because I recognized that people don't save a lot of money. So over the past several years, I've been really trying to find my niche. And I think that what we're going to be talking about today is exactly getting to the point where I think that I'm going to have the biggest impact. So
you've been in it for 17 years. You obviously have had some really good success in all areas of that. Some of it you probably like better than others, but you gravitated to retirement planning because you said you just realized that there was a need here. People just weren't saving enough for retirement. So was that like kind of a personal ambition of yours, is to help people save for retirement?
What helped me to get there was, I guess, call it fascination. Like, what is it? Why is it that we are doing a lousy job saving money? And I think that what I discovered is a lot of the time we're just really addressing the symptoms. People aren't saving money. Okay, well, let's try to get them to save money. But as I got deeper into it, I think that myself included, I have had periods of time in my life where I had a bad relationship with money, meaning I overconsumed, I got myself into debt. And fortunately, through doing a lot of the things that I talk about in my program, it's helped me to personally get back to where I'm financially successful. And so a lot of the things that I talk about are designed to help people really get down to the root of the problem, which is our relationship with money, with consuming, more so than just simple save more money.
A relationship with money, just how we handle it. And so are you like so many of us, when we're young, we're making some money and you end up spending more than you make, and therefore you find yourself upside down that world, and then you get that rude realization that, oh, great, now I get to climb out of this.
Yeah, I think that that's 100% right. I was in a position where I was in my 20s and I was finding financial success, and I also wanted to have nice things and drive nice cars and wear flashy clothes and all that good stuff, which at that point in my life was important to me. And I grew out of that, as so many people do, but found myself in a place where I was in debt and needed to get out of it. So 100%.
Okay. So where are you now?
Well, where I am now is I really have explored and looked at what I think that a lot of the real problems are. And I think that one of the big problems that we as a culture are facing is many of us are not really happy with the work that we're doing. And if you look at different studies and a lot of the research, it says that over half of Americans, if not more, are not engaged in their work. So I think that that's a big problem. So I think that we need to address that. But I think that we need to go back even further and realize, why do I act the way that I do financially? There's a concept called determinism, and that says that the reason that I make decisions, it's because of all the conditions that I grew up and all the experiences that I had caused me to act the way that I do. And I think that you can do the same thing with money. You can look back and say, okay, I came from a really wealthy family, or I came from a really poor family, and our family gave each other gifts, so that's what I like to do, or we never gave each other gifts. I think for everybody individually, if we went back and really explored and examined what our past history is with money, it would help us to really better understand why we act the way that we do today with money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And was there a moment in your life as a kid growing up that had a big impact on you now in hindsight that affects what you're doing today?
Like so many people, I came from a family that went through divorce. And so I had a single mother that raised me, and money was never abundant. She was a school teacher. So that being said, she liked to have nice things and she wanted us to have the best things. So I think that growing up in that experience of maybe spending a little bit more than was potentially in the budget on a consistent basis, and using credit cards and things like that, and buying things even though it wasn't necessarily the financially right decision. I think that that's what conditioned me to be a bit of a spendthrift in my 20s.
Yeah, well, and I think this is important for everybody to reckon with, that so often we are looking at that big story out there, or as you demonstrated, and I think probably we all demonstrated in our 20s, is living into a story that's not authentically us, which often gets us into trouble. You talked about engagement. Why half the work population is unengaged is because they're not living into their true, authentic story. They're living someone else's story. Why we spend ourselves in oblivion is we think we've got to keep up with the Joneses and live somebody else's story versus be authentic to who we are. And so through this whole process, and maybe it kind of revealed itself to you as you went, I'm so interested in the scenes and the moments in people's lives because it is from those pivotal scenes that create the stories that we should be living into, so that we're living our best and boldest, most unfictional self. So let me ask you this then, George. So here you are, 17 years, you've been successful. You know you've got this focus on retirement, helping people really understand the importance of saving for retirement. So where do you want to go? What's the next thing, and why is this new brand story strategy important to you?
And when I say retirement, I really want to make sure that we're on the same page. Let's just call it financial, just helping people to be more financially successful. What my whole thing is that I think that financial peace of mind allows people to more fully pursue their passions. And so that's fairly self-explanatory. But if I've got financial stress, or if I'm worried about going paycheck to paycheck and not be able to pay my bills, then I'm not going to be able to really pursue the things that I want to. I'm going to be stuck in a crappy job that I maybe hate, that there's probably no chance of me ever really enjoying because I've got bills to pay.
You're a slave to the creditor. Yeah.
100%. So my work, in my mind's eye, what I see is being able to help people really clarify and get personal alignment from, again, understanding why it is that they act the way that they do, getting a good, clear picture of where they are today, the things that they really value, the impact that they have, their place in the world, and then looking ahead, say, okay, now that I've got a handle on where I've been, I've got a handle on where I am right now. Now, where do I want to go? And I'll be able to help people move forward to a good and frankly contented, happy place.
Okay, so this is great. We've got the backstory, and now we need to start finding what makes you different, because you are, like all of us, you're a commodity. There are a lot of people in the financial services world doing what you're doing. So how do we make George Grombacher, rise above the noise and find your differentiation? Let's move to page 11 on your workbook, and let's go, what industry? Now we're going to go very high level, folks. We're going to go high level down to and land this plane on the tarmac. So industry, what industry are you operating in?
Financial services. Financial
services. What category in that industry are you operating in?
I suppose I would call it personal finance.
Personal finance versus what would be some other categories that that would go up against?
You could call it institutional finance.
Mm-hmm.
For example, so financial services is so broad.
Yeah.
You could look at that as property and casualty insurance or life insurance, or you could look at it as college planning. When I say institutional, I mean that managing 401k plans, things of that nature.
Okay, great. So we've got the industry, financial services category, personal financial. What's your specialty within that category? This is where we're starting to carve out your differentiation.
I'm going to call it changing consumer behaviors. Changing consumer and savings behaviors.
Okay, that's what you do. So you change consumer. So you're really kind of a behaviorist in the financial planning world.
I think that's fair. I'm interested in impacting people's behaviors. Yes.
Okay. So then it comes down to what we call the position statement. Another way of looking at this is category design. And I got this from a guy that was on our show a few months ago, Christopher Lockhead. An amazing show, folks. If you haven't listened to it, it's show number 97. And he opened up my eyes to how to create a differentiation and design a category. So I'm interested, George, where you're going with this on this sort of behaviorist and personal financial planning and saving. So what is your position statement?
So my idea is that I want to be the person that companies turn to and trust to deliver meaningful and common sense programming to their employees.
Okay. What does that mean?
So fundamentally, if you remember the movie The Social Network or the Facebook movie, there's that great scene with Mark Zuckerberg when he's in the depositions across from the three guys that are suing him. And he says to them, if you were the inventors of Facebook, then you would have invented Facebook. And I believe that if the large financial companies that are out there, if they were actually capable of helping people be financially successful, then they would have been helping people to be financially successful. And that's just not where we're at today. So that tells me that fundamentally the messaging and the training that they're providing is just scratching the surface of it, and it's not actually doing anything that's impactful. So my thought process is I'm approaching companies that are already offering some kind of a retirement plan and therefore a financial wellness program to their employees already. And this program is going to be in addition to it. And it's going to be offering a different kind of training.
So what would it be if you boil it down to say George Grombacher is the number one resource for what? You are the go-to guy for what?
For changing financial behaviors.
So it goes back to that behavioral. So, okay, what is the benefit of changing that financial behavior?
The benefit to the individual will be personal alignment. It'll help them to understand what their impact is that they're accomplishing through their work. It will help them to become more contented in their life. And my assertion is that, and through that, their financial behaviors will improve. The benefit to the company is, again, there's a mountain of research that suggests that financial stress is the number one stress on employees, and it causes absenteeism. If people don't save money, then they can never retire, and that puts a strain on employee benefits and the cost of insurance to companies. So there's a myriad of reasons why to a company, and not to mention, if I can help the company become better aligned via helping their employees become aligned, I can't help but think that that's going to help the company be more effective.
So through this, you help them sort of realign their relationship to money, which then changes their behavior towards savings and creating a healthier financial approach. So you're reducing stress and you're making them more resilient in their financial world.
That's right.
Okay. Is anybody else doing this out there in this way?
I think that there's a reason that the most effective financial person in the country today barely talks about anything financial, and that's Dave Ramsey. If you check out his stuff, which is excellent, it's all awesome stuff, and I encourage people to do so. He's not spending a lot of time talking about rates of return or sophisticated financial concepts. He's talking about getting out of debt and not spending more money than you're making. So
he's helping to reprogram or change that relationship to money and therefore the behavior and get healthy behaviors versus self-destructive behaviors.
That's right.
Great. What does he do that is particularly well in the way he communicates?
I would just have to say that he breaks things down in a way that's easy to understand, and that motivates people to take action. So
yeah, one of the hardest things that I found in the financial world, especially in the insurance world, is numbers. They don't have a lot of impact. It's hard they are so abstract. It's hard to have these, concrete takeaways a lot of times with it, unless you can convert that into, stories of human impact. So does he do a particularly good job of putting these financial terms in human terms?
I have to assume that he does. I've read his material and all that good stuff. But yes, I think he does a good job of just humanizing things and making it easy to understand. So what I like to say, Park, is that I'd rather be useful than brilliant. So it doesn't serve anybody for me to try to show off how smart I am. Not that I'm even that smart necessarily, but what's helped me to be successful when people tell me I do well is I take confusing, intimidating, hard to understand concepts or topics and make them easy to understand. And so if you can deliver that to people, obviously you need to give people enough information, but you don't want to give them too much. So refer to that as planning tolerance. Otherwise people can't make a decision and Ergo, they probably do not make decisions. So
yeah, I've got you. Make it easy. Take the abstract to concrete, simplify it so that they can make a decision that is in their best interest.
yes.
All right. So we want to keep thinking about this differentiation. We'll come back to it. Let's move on to the second chapter. And this is the Hoosier hero chapter. And by the way, you're not the hero in this. No brand is. You always play the more important role of mentor or guide. So take us through your top 3 audiences.
Well, I will be approaching companies. So the CEO of the company, the chief financial officer of the company, and then the human resources leader in the company. So the CEO is somebody who wants, this is the person who's in an ideal world setting the vision, the mission of the company, and then driving it down. So this person is interested in obviously keeping the company successful, but then keeping it moving forward successfully.
Mm-hmm.
CFO is obviously the financial officer, so they are interested in if they can help their people to be more financially successful, it's going to help the bottom line of the company. I think that with a couple of easy things, you can add probably 5% to the top line of the company, which will make its way down to the bottom line. So reducing the cost of insurances, reducing the costs that are caused by financial stress to an organization is something the CFO would certainly want. And from a human resources perspective, HR leaders are tasked with an enormous amount of different things. I mean, these are the people officers a lot of the time, the folks that are in charge of oftentimes implementing the vision that the CEO is putting in place. And so if I can help to get these employees to work sort of in concert with them to help people become more aligned with the company mission, then I think that will be a valuable thing to human resources professionals as well.
So the interesting thing that occurs to me here is you are in there selling your services, much like a leadership training coach might be. They're talking to the same folks in there to help their people be more productive, pulling in the same direction and taking stress out of their life so they can do, be more focused on the job. So in some respects, you are kind of in that leadership training field, and it doesn't matter where the person is within the organization. Everybody can benefit from this. So you are kind of going down this path of financial leadership through the behaviors that people have and towards a relationship with their money. Is that fair to say?
That is correct. In a perfect world, I'm trying to help people lead contented lives. And my part in that is money. And if I can help people get past having to worry about money, well, then I've done a heck of a job.
Mm-hmm. So in other areas, you might be alongside the team of, you've got someone that's working on healthcare, I should say healthier, you have physical training, you've got nutritionists in there, you've got mindfulness coaches, and they all have their part in helping people lead contented lives. Yours happens to be in the financial realm.
That's right.
Gotcha. And George, do you have much competition in this approach to helping people in their personal finances?
One of the great buzzwords or awful buzzwords in the industry today is wellness. And I think that it's a really, really, really positive thing that everybody's talking about wellness, that health insurance companies are encouraging better diet and exercise and movement in their people. What's not good about that? That financial companies are talking about financial wellness and retirement readiness and stuff like that. And I hope it all works. So at some level, yes, I'm in competition with everybody. But I do not think that they are really getting down to the problems. They're addressing the symptoms.
Well, and I don't think you're in competition with them necessarily. I think what we are trying to identify here is how are you different and how do you carve out your niche? I don't see you as a competitor to them. I see you as a specialist that complements them.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would say that this is an addition.
Well, yeah, wellness has become a buzzword. So you kind of said that, casting it aside. What is it about wellness within these organizations don't you like? How do you think it's maybe taken on a bad sheen?
I question as to whether or not the execution will be successful. That's all. So when something becomes a buzzword, everybody piles on and they start talking about it. And again, I hope that everybody's successful in the actual execution and implementation of it. But as I said earlier, if these companies were capable of doing it, then they would have been doing it. So do I think that a large health insurance company is going to be capable of changing the fact that today 40% of adults are pre-diabetic or diabetic? Well, geez, we'll see. But I think that it's going to take a lot more than that. I think that it's going to take working with the actual HR leaders, the CFOs, the CEOs of companies, and really tailoring and designing programs and then putting a strong community in place that's going to help individuals within these companies get the results that they want.
Okay. So let's keep going down this path. I'm going to have you flip to page 27 here. And if you could read through this, because again, I can read about half of it. I love it. You got to be really good at what you do because I can't read your handwriting. Can you take us through audience stakes, mentor, competitors, and your offering leading up to what your value proposition is?
Of course. So what we're talking about here is the audience is our CEOs, CFOs, and human resource leaders who want to help their employees achieve positive financial outcomes and ideally financial peace of mind. So in the mentor section, my brand is the number one provider of education above and beyond what's currently being offered, which is unlike the other firms that we referenced before. I'm offering a unique overlay onto what they're already doing, and I'm doing it at a very reasonable cost. So my brand will deliver online modules as well as an online community, which will empower the employees of these companies towards more positive financial futures.
Okay, so let's stop right there. I want you to get more specific. Right now, when we start with this, when you go through the workbook, you do start at generalizations, high level, what industry you're working in, category, and that sort of thing. And then your position statement is like functionally, what is it you do out there? But in every step as we go through this, I want you to keep getting way more specific and seeing if we can't fine tune this. So when it goes to the mentor section, what is it you're actually offering? Because you didn't even say financial training. You just said, training or whatever. I want you to get really specific. What do you mean by the financial training in the online world and whatever? What is this overlay that you're talking about that you're doing?
It will be an online university, which is going to be a membership site, for lack of a better term, that's going to be a combination of different modules. And the modules are going to be a video with accompanying PDF documents. And it's going to be broken out into more traditional financial messaging. For example, we're going to talk about putting together a budget, but it's going to be very, very in-depth and potentially different than other exercises that people have been in the past, to modules about saving for college, modules about designing retirement income. So really talking about the protection, the accumulation, and the distribution, which are the three phases of somebody's financial world. So there's going to be traditional financial messaging and modules within the program that people can go through at their own pace. But then on top of that, there's going to be non-traditional behavioral type modules that we're talking about. There's going to be a module that is geared towards getting down to our financial DNA. So why am I wired the way that I am? Why am I a saver? Why am I a spender? What were the experiences in my life that made me the way that I am, or that really influenced the way that I am? There's going to be modules that deal with really getting down to what our core values are. Modules on understanding what my impact is, no matter what my role with the company is. If I'm the president of the company, or if I'm working in the mailroom, understanding what the mission of the company is and how I fit into that. I think that getting down and helping people to engage in their work, that's sort of what we talked about at the beginning. If I could be a part of helping people through that, I think that that'll be a positive thing. Exercises in helping people really figure out how it is that they're spending their time. And then helping them, again, a module on helping them understand where they are in the world and what their perspective is. And then finally, a module dealing with whatever their financial goals might be, what their goals for their family are, for their community, what their spiritual goals are, hobbies, exercise and fitness, and all those things. So again, getting back to the idea of personal alignment, where have you been? Where are you now? But where are you really going into the future? So when I say it's different, I'm not aware of a lot of financial messaging or education that is like that. And if it's out there, more people need to take advantage of it. So,
So really what you're talking about here, George, is you are making a platform, it sounds like, that people can go online and do all of this work through your guidance, whether you're in person or they're just doing it online. Is that right?
That is 100% correct.
Okay. Do you have a name for your platform?
I'm calling it Money Peace University.
Money Peace, as in PEAC?
That's right, as in peace of mind.
Money Peace University. Awesome. And you've got that protected. You got the URL and all that there?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. We're getting somewhere here. So what I need you to do, we're just going to backtrack for just a second. I want you to go back now to, what were we, page 11, your position statement. Money Peace University is the number one resource for what? This is what is making you different from the world. This isn't about George. This is about your platform. Money Peace University is the number one resource for what?
Money Peace University is the number one resource that companies trust and turn to deliver meaningful and common sense programming to their employees.
Okay, so you are positioning this totally to the companies, and that is your customer, as you identified earlier, CEO, CFO, HR person versus the end person, like me just hanging out. I don't work for a big corporation. Can I go on and do Money Peace University?
Certainly. Yes.
Okay.
A person can, and the course is not up, but when it is finished, certainly people can go and sign up for it on their own. My marketing efforts are going to be directed to, it will be business to business, so B2B as opposed to business to consumer.
So it's all B2B. Okay. So that you want to keep that. So say that again to me then. Money Peace University is the number one, and I might even add online resource. Unless, you want to keep that open, that you might be in there rolling up your sleeves and working in a classroom setting. But I like to get, again, as specific as we can on what the product offering is. If that works for you, is it the number one online resource to do what?
That companies trust to deliver meaningful and common sense programming to their people.
Meaningful and common sense, what kind of programming?
I suppose it would be financial.
And common sense, but what kind of financial?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's very broad. So I need to work through that, which is, I suppose, what we're doing right now.
Personal financial, because you identified that earlier. Right? So it's personal financial. So you're going from company large down to personal. Money Peace University is the number one online resource to help companies provide meaningful and common sense personal financial planning and execution. Because it's not just about the planning; it's you're helping them, you're planning and activation or execution to their employees.
The idea is that I'm going to be helping the employee achieve personal alignment, and therefore be helping the company achieve alignment as well through financial programming.
Okay, so that's kind of an offshoot. That's sort of an added value. If I'm not stressed out about my finances because Money Peace University has helped me align my life, my lifestyle, my thinking and behaviors around it, I'm able to get myself out of debt. I can focus more on the company. So this is an added value for the company to be able to train their people, to give them a chance to level up as in their own personal finances and become more aligned, have more contentedness, and therefore the return for the company is greater engagement, ultimately.
Yes.
Okay. And we'll put engagement.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, I'm still wading through this, but I'm getting a clearer picture of Money Peace University is the number one online resource for companies to help their employees personally align themselves for greater financial fitness, something like that. We won't wordsmith it here, but I'm now getting to the point of we got a platform going here. Okay, cool. Let's go back now to where we were in the book. And let's see, we were down here on, I'm looking for a unique value proposition. Okay. We're back on 27. So we have identified for audiences, for CFOs, CEOs, and HR people, stakes who want to help their employees through the stress of poor financial planning so that they can be more focused at work. Money Peace University is the number one online resource, basically to help them get their financial act together. Unlike large institutions that are standoffish and don't always connect on the individual level, again, the offering is Money Peace University offers meaningful, common sense personal financial planning to help employees in their most, to create fiscal fitness, if you will. So we take all that, and we start boiling it down into your brand unique value proposition. And I want to keep this as simple as possible. It's now like you're starting to romance a little bit about what your offering is. So we're getting specific, but we're starting to bring more humanity to it, because what we've done to date, or in the book up through page 27, is functionally figure out what you offer that is different than anybody else, who your audiences are, who cares about this differentiated offering, what's at stake for them that you help deliver on. And now we're going to start formulating, how do you say that in a human way? Money Peace University does what? As simple as possible.
Money Peace University helps you through the program help your employees achieve financial peace of mind.
So it's all about financial peace of mind. Money Peace University helps you and your employees achieve financial peace of mind.
Yes. And to a degree, I don't want to view this as a company being paternal or maternal to their employees, but I'm interested in working with companies that, in fact, do want to help their employees be in the best possible situation or position to be successful in every aspect. And certainly financially is such a big one. And so I'm interested in, this is a vehicle that, in addition to what you're already doing, is going to help put your employees in a better position to be financially successful.
Yeah. And it's not something mandated. It's totally up to the employee. You can take advantage of this or not. We highly recommend you do it, because here's just another way. Look at, you're eating better. You're taking care of yourselves. You go home and you take care of your home. You may as well take care of your finances while you're at it. And here's one way to approach this.
Yes.
So it's at Money Peace University. It's all about financial peace of mind. Educating on financial peace of mind and what it ultimately comes down to. So everybody, and when you're thinking about your unique value proposition, George, I always try to think about, all right, how does that play out to, I'm fabulously successful and I now have 100 or 100,000 employees working for me. How can they live into this unique value proposition too? So you're about financial peace of mind. When I'm working for this organization, I have financial peace of mind, both in my training, relationship, and behavior towards finances, as well as the money I'm making. And then how does that unique value proposition play to your customers? Well, gee, if I'm a CEO, CFO, or HR person, if I can get my people stop focusing on the stress of money because they don't have it, because they've got that peace of mind, then I can get them more aligned with what I need them to do in my organization to make us more effective and make us more money, therefore giving me financial peace of mind. And then shareholders, stakeholders coming in, always asking yourself, how does this exact same unique value proposition play to them? And that's what really gives you the depth in that value proposition. Well, you know you've really landed on something. And the words that I keep writing down: relationship to, behavior around, aligning with, then again, this fiscal fitness, money mindfulness, wealth wellness, these kinds of things that you are now taking this abstract world of finances and numbers, and you are reframing it through other sort of wellness programs and mindfulness programs that people go through to get the rest of their life together, act together. Why not get your financial act together at the same time? Is kind of what I'm hearing in this.
Yes.
Now, does it seem to make sense?
It does.
Okay, so let's keep moving right along here. Now, what I want to do is start thinking about, okay, we go here on, what page am I on? Page 31. This is when we start, by the way, we're moving into chapter 5 here, and this is the obstacles and antagonists. This is what they are up against and you are up against as a brand. This is really important. Yeah, I call it villains, fog, and crevasses. And the reason why villains are, what are the competitive forces that are out to thwart your progress, both external competition and internal voices and fear and that kind of thing. The fog is what is it that they don't know that I am going to help clarify for them. And then the crevasses are, where's the gaps? You know, they're doing one thing, they're saying one thing, but they're doing something else. Where are the gaps in their lives? And where's the gap in my brand that I have to close or bridge those gaps? So going through this real quick, and let's just take one of your audiences here so we don't spend a lot of time on this. Your CFO or your CEO. He or she is your number one audience. What are the competing forces that would keep that CEO from working with you?
The traditional providers, the things that they're already offering, assuming that what they're currently doing is going to be effective.
Mm-hmm. So the old way, the status quo.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the question asked there is, what do they stand to gain by going with you in Money Peace University? And what do they stand to lose by remaining in status quo? And quite often, your most powerful story marketing is going to come by highlighting what they stand to lose by remaining in status quo.
Well, what they stand to lose is, again, there's this mountain of evidence and research of how much financial stress is costing organizations, particularly large organizations, every year. So what they stand to lose is just they're going to keep losing money because many of their employees are having a hard time financially.
And that engagement piece too. I mean, you read anything about engagement and the cost of it, or the lack of engagement, the cost of it to companies. I was just going through looking at the ROI of story and reviewed what it costs an organization when somebody leaves. I mean, it's really astronomical for all that training that walks out the door and then they have to go and find somebody else. So what you're talking about is yet another tool of engagement that they can be using to help retain and train that employee, going beyond just their financial wisdom and peace of mind, but to actually have them stay around and be more focused on the job.
That's 100% correct. I think that I think that will resonate with a CEO and certainly a CFO as well, is if when somebody goes through this program, they are more personally aligned. That means they're going to have a better understanding of the impact that they're currently having in their role. That's going to add to the overall company alignment.
Yeah. So you go through this process, by the way, this practice on page 31 to help start formulating the potential kinds of brand stories that you are going to be sharing with your different audiences. And let's look at the next one, fog or their blind spots. So what are the blind spots that you see a CEO might have towards Money Peace University?
Well, I think that, so explain that to me a little bit more. I had a hard time understanding exactly what that is asking.
The blind Yeah. So this is like, what don't they know that they don't know about you? So maybe they don't know really the impact they're having by not retaining their employees and the cost, what that actual cost is to the organization, because they just simply haven't taken the time to pencil the numbers. Is this somewhere where you could come in and talk about employee turnover and say, it's costing you X amount according to these figures by, some well-known authors. And by the way, if you could get them more financial peace of mind, get them more focused and more engaged in the job, what would that mean to the organization?
I think that that's well said right there. And yes, very much in line with what we've been talking a little bit about is, are you aware of the potential impact of that financial stress is having on your employee base?
Yeah. Yeah. So forget about their engagement and productivity. What about the retention? You may, CEO be losing way more by not being able to retain these people and having to hire and retrain somebody, let alone the product knowledge and the company origin knowledge that they've got that walks out the door because they're too financially stressed out. I've got a vehicle that can relieve that stress for them, and that's this online program. That's an example of filling in the blanks, clearing up the fog or the blind spots. And then the last one here is the crevices. So the gaps and what they're saying and doing and what's actually happening and how Money Piece University can help bridge that gap or close that gap for that CEO with their company and their employees. What might a story be around that?
Well, there's a couple of different scenarios that we could run into. One being that the leader of the organization, the CEO, doesn't necessarily think that this is going to have an impact on the overall well-being of their employees. So I think that could be an issue in running into those companies that aren't necessarily embracing the idea of alignment.
So it may be incumbent upon you then, obviously, to dig up that kind of research and studies that said how many people in organizations are suffering from this lack of peace of mind due to financial stress, and what could that possibly mean to employee engagement and retention, and what could that possibly be costing that CEO and that corporation because they have not bridged this gap between productivity and everything else they're doing in wellness, and that they're not paying attention to the financial side of it. They're giving them the instruments and the vehicles, 401ks, simple IRAs, whatever, to invest, but these people may not be doing it. So there's a gap there that this company then can step into with your product to be able to close that gap with almost no effort on their behalf. They're just introducing the concept to their employees, and you then take them from there.
That is well said and correct. The idea here is that this is a simple and affordable tool for alleviating a problem which is present in, I would have to imagine, the majority of companies.
Yeah, gotcha. And this is a really important part of the book here because it helps you start now ferreting out the stories and proofing against your position in the marketplace, your unique value proposition. So when you've got that position statement and the UVP down, you start testing it and proofing it through these stories that answer the questions, what is in it for my audience and what do they stand to lose by doing nothing? And you find if the stories are there or if they're not, then it has you go back and kind of realign or rework your position statement and UVP depending on how it's feeling and how it's sounding as it comes out. So, George, we've got a few more minutes here, still a lot to accomplish. Let's jump on ahead and let's go to page 35. And this is important now because we have entered into the chapter 6 of this, and it's called Enter the Mentor. This is the Obi-Wan Kenobi chapter or the Glenda Goodwitch of the North chapter. You now as the brand, the personality are the guide that brings the wisdom, the system, the framework to help people get what they want. And that's ultimately fiscal peace of mind, financial peace of mind, so that they can live into more powerful futures. Here, I ask you to write down 9 words, 9 adjectives, 9 product descriptors, personality descriptors that best define who you are. So what are the 9 that you came up with Money Peace University? And by the way, this is really important at this point because what we're trying to do is now starting to establish the personality that you will talk about your offering, to humanize your offering, because you're going to be talking about the true human impact. Remember, it's all about what you make happen in your people's lives, not what you make. You simply have made an online course, an online tool, which is awesome, but what do you ultimately make happen to get them to that financial peace of mind? Start with these 9 descriptors. What are they?
Number 1 is useful, and that's number 1 because if this is not useful, if it's not working, if it's not practical, then it's a waste of everybody's time. So number 1 is useful. Number 2 is understandable, then supportive, then actionable, then inspiring, then practical, enthusiastic, communal, and finally honest.
Awesome. Why is it communal?
Because I think that any kind of change needs to be supported via community. There's a reason that Weight Watchers has been successful. There's a reason CrossFit is so popular because there's community around it. And so a big part of this online platform will be an online community as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And then what I always ask folks, and I'll ask you to do the same thing, is go back to any of your words that are operational and see if you can't make them aspirational. Or again, going back to it's not what you make, but it's what you make happen. So for instance, it's useful. Okay, cool. You're making it useful, but what does that useful mean emotionally to people? What do they get out of it being useful? And you don't have to answer that right now, George. This is, I just have you go back. Results. Okay. And what does results get them?
What they want.
I know. It's all right. You boil down like understanding is another one. Okay. So they get understanding, but what do they really get? Are they more enlightened about their work? Is it what is more deeply rooted, in the old Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You get up to the basic understanding of this stuff, and then you work your way up the pyramid. So understanding actually delivers them where?
Okay. So when I say it's understandable, it's that they're able to consume the information and put it to use. So they're actually able to watch it, read it, and then put it into practice.
Gotcha. So throughout these, that's why I like communal, because it's not one you typically see that pops up. And I like that. I like, you're going to have some interesting ones. And by the way, I'm really glad you didn't say innovative here, because everybody says innovative. And I hate to tell you, innovative is a cost of entry. So I never hang my hat on innovation. You got to be innovative. So you haven't done that. Thank you very much. I like honest in this too. And these are also going to be words that are going to help inform how you go to market in the look and feel and the tone of it. So from these 9 words, and by the way, here's another exercise for you that I love doing. So in each one of these, George, words, I want this word to become a theme of a true story. I want this to be a theme of a human impact, a true story about the impact that Money Peace University is making on the lives of your customers, employees, or whatever. So practical is one of them. Let's say that that's your theme. Now go and find a true story that demonstrates, illustrates the practicality of your platform. If you do this for each of these 9 words, you find at least 1 story per word. And if you've been around a lot longer, you find 3 stories per each word. It starts proofing out again. Are you walking the talk? Is what you're saying and aspiring your brand to be, are you actually doing that in the world? And it's okay if you're not completely doing it in each one of these. It gives you something to point at. It says, you know what? It is practical, but we don't have enough case studies on that. So we need to have some more case studies, get input, and make sure that our customers believe that this is practical, and or make the changes within it as deemed by our customers to make these stories of practicality purposeful, meaningful, and authentic. And so you do that to help proof out these 9 words. Then what you do, you put it through the sift as you've done here, and you get down to your brand promise. And this is ideally 1 word, and it's an emotional word. It is like, what is the emotion people get when working with Money Peace University. Again, from you to your family, to your employees, to your customers, to the CEOs, to the people actually using it. You've got a brand promise of impact. And that's, again, very operational. Mm-hmm. But what would be an emotional? So what does that impact mean? What does it actually give them?
Ooh, well, I guess contentment, or is that more operational as well?
Yeah, contentment's nice, but I think you say it in the name of your company. Peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
They have this promise of peace of mind.
So that's what I jumped ahead. I put that on our brand's gift.
You know what? And that could be fine too. Now I see that they're financial peace of mind. So what we're doing here, folks, is you work through these 9 words. You boil it down to these 9 words, and then you take those and create this one brand promise of impact, and then the brand gift. What do they get tangibly from working with your company, your service you're offering? And George has got your financial peace of mind. And I think you're right. I think the brand gift in this case is simply peace of mind and a brighter future, that kind of thing.
Would personal alignment be appropriate there? And I could put maybe the peace of mind piece on our brand's promise.
No, again, personal alignment is very operational. Okay. I want you to be a little bit more aspirational and emotional. Okay. So in this brand promise, you've got impact, but another one here that might work is confidence. Is like when you work with us, you have confidence that you are taking a great program that's actually going to help you. As it's helping you, you get more confidence in your position in the world as it relates to your money and the behaviors that are associated with it. And with confidence comes all kinds of things: alignment, focus, engagement, that kind of thing. So your brand promise might be something around the sense and the emotion of confidence. And the ultimate deliverable, the gift in this, is peace of mind.
I like it. That makes sense to be more aspirational.
Something like that. So, and again, you do what we all do, and we start everything very operational. Functions, just get down to what's the widget, and it's the best widget ever. And that's great. The best widget ever is the cost of entry. But now it's like emotionally, what do we get? It's not what we make, but what we make happen. So then I asked you, and you went through and did the archetyping. So we want to figure out what is the personality of the brand that you're going to go to market with. And folks, the old-fashioned way of doing this, and you probably, if you've had a company out there, have been through branding, someone asked you, if your brand was a car, what kind of car would it be? If your brand was a dog, what kind of dog would it be? Blah, blah, blah. And by the way, George, I used to do it that way too. I was trained that way. I never got it. I never understood it. And so now we do this archetyping, which I love, off of Carl Jung's 12 archetypes, because I found that these archetypes, still somewhat high level, drill us down into what the brand personality is. Let me read the 12 real quick, then you tell us which one you arrived on. We've got the innocent. We have the lover personality, the magician, the caregiver, the hero, the explorer, the jester, the sage, the creator, the ruler, the rebel, and the regular guy or gal. Which one did you guys arrive at?
I landed on sage. Mm-hmm. And being that the motto for sage is the truth will set you free. And a big part of the stuff that I'm talking about in the conversations that I have with people is you need to step out from behind yourself and have a real conversation if you're actually going to eventually have a successful relationship with money. Otherwise, it's going to keep eating your lunch. So
that's awesome. I mean, and that just feels like it, from just our brief conversation here, it really feels like the primary archetype in its authentic wholeness. And also, I would say, Sage, you've got 17 years doing this. You've seen all the different ways of selling financial services. You've represented all these different instruments. You've landed on this. So you've got that kind of background that really lends itself to the Sage. The truth will set you free.
It's weird to think of myself as an expert, but I guess 17 years might put me in that category. So
this truth will set you free. Well, Money Peace University, that might be your tagline. The truth will set you free.
Okay, maybe.
That's kind of interesting. There's that whole freedom approach. So we've got time for one more thing, and I'm not even going to pretend that I can get you to where you need to be in one episode of the Business of Story. But I feel like, and I hope you feel like we've made some gains on where you are and to clarify your story. And this other fourth pillar is hugely important, and it's called your purpose. So what is the brand purpose? And folks, this is why you exist beyond making money. How do you actually impact people? So, George, what'd you put down as a brand purpose for Money Peace University?
To help people to more fully pursue their passions through financial peace of mind.
Cool. That's pretty damn good, I got to tell you. Money Peace University exists to help people more fully pursue their passions through financial peace of mind. I think that's great.
We got one.
Well, no, I think it's great because it boils it down to people, to the actual human. You know, you're not talking about CFOs and corporations here. You're talking about individuals, and that's what it's all about when you're telling your brand story. It's focusing on the individual human impact you make in the world. And if you could take that brand purpose and that becomes your vision, your mission, whatever, but you hang that on the wall and you point to that every single day you show up to work and you have your employees do the same thing. Now they've got a North Star that you can all live into and prosper from. I like it.
Well, thank you, sir. I very much appreciate you taking the time to help me work through this. It's not an easy thing, especially when you can't read what I wrote down, but
No. This is all good. Has this been helpful to you? And if so, how has it helped you clarify your story today?
Well, I think that looking at the difference between being more operational, or rather being more aspirational versus operational in my language is very, very, very helpful. So that certainly is. But just talking through it is extremely valuable. So number one, doing the exercise, taking the time to do it, and then talking through it is very helpful.
Well, that's good. And I'm glad we boiled down to the Money Peace University part, because when I first started this whole thing, I was thinking of you as an individual provider. You know, how do we separate and differentiate George in this vast world of financial planners? But then all of a sudden, we actually have a platform that you're building and working from. Now that's even cooler because you can really differentiate Money Peace University, and being the guy there, being the sage that helped makes that happen, I think can be a really powerful thing. I would definitely encourage you to embrace the wellness word and the wellness market out there in corporations, because it's such a growing thing. And if you feel probably like I feel a little bit about storytelling, everybody is like jumping on the bandwagon of storytelling. And I can tell you very few people are really studied in it and really understand how to help people do it. That gets very frustrating when I go to story wellness seminars and hear a quote unquote storyteller, and you're like, no, that's not really story. But there's ways to help them. So like you said, they have these wellness programs, but are they really being effective? Well, I think they are. And I think they can be even more effective, but that is the opening, that story tension that you can come into and say, let's talk about fiscal fitness, wealth, wellness, whatever. Tie yourself into that wellness movement. And while they're busy eating all the right things and doing their exercise and that sort of thing, you are the go-to guru for fiscal fitness. And by the way, this truth will set you free. And it all starts at Money Peace University. I think it's coming together. At least I'm seeing the clarified story now on my end.
I agree, sir. I think we're getting there.
When are you going to launch your platform?
Why are you asking such specific questions?
That's my
Short
job.
deadlines and high expectations, Park. The platform's been opened up and the videos are being recorded. Not as we speak, but it's all in process. So it will be launched and online in the first quarter of 2018.
In 2018. Well, good for you, man. And I know it's a lot of work. And I might also say that what platform are you going to be using for your university?
Well, like so many of the folks that are listening, have probably listened to a lot of the other episodes. I listened to the one with Greg Smith from Thinkific, and I'm 95% sure that they are the platform that I'll be using. So definitely encourage people to check that out. I mean, they thought of everything. And from what I've seen so far, it's very user-friendly, and it seems like a great program.
Yeah, I've found the same thing. I am in the throes of bringing my stuff online as well. And we looked at all of them out there, it seems like. And we arrived at Thinkific, met up with them at Social Media Marketing World earlier this year, and chatted with them a little bit. And then, Greg Smith, the co-founder, came on our show. That's show number 113, folks, if you want to hear it. And what I loved about that show with him is that he allowed me to challenge him, because so many people put on online training and online universities, these kinds of things, and a lot of them fail for a number of different reasons. And I think Greg did a really nice job of going through the show and answering those concerns and demonstrating ways that you can do it. So much so that Bjorn Ross is a gentleman that's going to be launching a program on Thinkific, and he contacted me last week, and he and I have been working through his DIY workbook. So I'm glad to hear that the Business of Story podcast is helping folks arrive at it. And I think you made a good choice in Thinkific. And by the way, I've got no money. I got no skin in the game. I just think that they have done a really nice job too, by the way.
Yeah, well, I certainly echo everything you said. It seems like a valuable program. So.
All right. Well, let me know how it's coming together, George, in 2018. You're right around the corner from me here in Phoenix. And if I can be of further service to you, I would love to. And I appreciate you coming on the show, bearing your soul and working through it, clarifying your story to amplify your impact and hopefully simplify your life.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Great fun. And thank you all for listening to this edition of Business of Story. If you're interested, you want to get your story clarified to amplify your impact, simplify your life, go to businessofstory.com, download your DIY story strategy workbook. It only costs $45. It's going to be the best money you ever spend. I guarantee you that, and it can lead to millions if you get this thing dialed in. And if I can be of service to you after you've got your book down, you can hire me in a Pick My Brain session, and we work through it together. So, but first things first, go download it, 64-page workbook. It has examples in it. And by the way, you can listen to this show or 2 other shows where we worked through it with some other listeners. Jonathan Barney, show number 98, and Timoteo Osanubi in show number 102. We did the same thing like we did here with George. So these shows are meant for you to be able to flip open your book, work through it, and understand the kinds of information that you want to be gathering in each of these content buckets so that you can really dial in your story. And remember, it's not what you make, but what you make happen in people's lives. That is the business story that you want to find. That is where your brand story is focused. And finally, remember, no matter what happens from here on out, the most potent story you are ever going to tell is the story you tell yourself. So make it a great one. Thanks for listening, and I will see you back here next Sunday. Take care.